सड़क की दूसरी साइड है, देख लिया मतलब एक बार बता देना फिर जैसे भी है।
So, a very good evening, everyone present here. This is Devanshi, the student manager of IP Press organization, and I welcome you all to this one day workshop on roadmap to pursuing LLM abroad. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our distinguished guest and our very first speaker, Miss Meghmala Mukherjee ma'am, who is a BCL graduate from University of Oxford and supported by HSA Advocate Scholarship by the Oxford India Centre for Sustainable Development and Somerville College. Currently, she is the Assistant Professor of Legal Practice at Jindal Global Law School. Our second speaker is Mr. Hitat Parik sir, who is a LLM IPR graduate from UNH Franklin Pierce School of Law and is right now associate at Khetan and Company. And our third speaker is Miss Sonal Sinha ma'am, who is incoming LLM graduate from University of Edinburgh, and she is the IP attorney and team manager of the IP Press. So this workshop is a unique opportunity to gain valuable insights from distinguished alumni of prestigious law schools. So whether you are just beginning to consider an LLM or in the midst of application process, this workshop will really help you and provide you with the knowledge and tools to make informed decisions and enhance your application. So, before starting this workshop, firstly, I would like each speaker to describe their journey from applying to different universities until you graduated from that university very briefly. So, Meghmala Mukherjee ma'am, if you could start first.
Sure. Thanks. So, thanks everyone, and thank you for joining. So, to summarize my journey for the masters, decided to apply maybe a few months before I started the application process. And the best thing, and I think the way to keep sane during the application process is to basically make yourself a tracker, which I also did. Basically, keep track of the universities you want to apply to, what their conditions are. So we start from there. And then it was the rigorous process of figuring out how to write SOPs and writing statements, contacting your professors from long back to get LORs and things like that. So that was stage one. Once you finish your application and submit it, then of course it's the waiting period when you don't know whether you've been accepted or not. Now, thankfully, acceptances came. And then the next process comes is about scholarships because most of us come from, I would say, very humble backgrounds, and it's not possible for us to always, have the means to go for a fully funded, self funded, or family funded masters abroad. So that is something that has to be done in parallel actually with your main application because a lot of the foreign scholarships, especially for the UK, are running parallel to the application process, and you don't have to wait till you get the acceptance to apply for these scholarships. And there are certain scholarships which actually want you to apply even before you have applied for a master's. So things like Rhodes, they expect you to apply to the Rhodes scholarship before you have applied for the Oxford degree. Now, Rhodes is, of course, very typical or very atypical to Oxford. It doesn't apply to any other universities. But there are also scholarships like Chevening or Chevening, however you want to pronounce it. So there again, the deadline for those scholarships are much earlier than your university scholarships. So I think you shouldn't be worried about applying for the scholarships even before you have applied for your university or to the master's program. And I think that's the beauty of the scholarship programs as well, because they say that you just let us know which are the universities you're considering. So that's something that's good that way. So once you have your offer, once you have your scholarships in place, then it's the journey of going there, studying, getting used to a new place, to be very honest. And you're doing this at a very accelerated rate because you have to do everything simultaneously, and you have something like anywhere between 9 months to a year or maybe 15 months to get done with. And then, of course, you have your postmasters career ahead of you. Now, during the masters is where all the important things will happen, which I think we'll also cover here. But it starts from before the masters, and then during the masters, everything goes together. So, should I continue with discussing how to go during the masters?
Uh, Ma'am, we can first finish the
Sure,
journey of
sure,
the
sure, sure,
speakers and
sure, of
then yeah,
course. Yeah.
yeah. Okay,
So,
so with that, sir, can
yeah.
you also describe your journey? Sir, you haven't unmuted.
Hello everyone. It's nice to reconnect with everyone. I I did my intellectual like masters in intellectual property rights from Franklin Pierce School of Law in the US. If I remember, I applied very early because I was very clear that I want to apply to this particular university, and that was the only university that I had applied to. And I finished the application part in somewhere around October, and they did not take long to give the acceptance letter, and by I think mid of November I had the acceptance letter as well in my hand. And in the US, while you get the acceptance letter, that time only they offer you some sort of scholarship, and then maybe you can talk to them if you want more scholarship, and that is also considered. Thereafter, I like accepted my offer. I paid the deposit money, and by the end of December, I like the admission was confirmed. And then the main problem when you are doing LLM from the US is the visa issue, because in my opinion that's a tougher thing than you are doing your masters in the UK. Because if you are doing from US, you have to go through interview process, and there is like a very stringent visa process, and for that a lot of documentation and lot of stuff is required. So then I think from December to April I waited, and then in April I got I-20 from my college, and based on that I-20 I applied for the interview, and then my interview was scheduled in July, and there were like a lot of documentation, lot of papers, and lot of things were required for the visa process. And during the interview also, like a lot of questions were asked, and once you get that, then only you can say that okay, now you are going to the US. And the journey started in August, and it was a 9-month course, and it was a life changing course because you get to learn a lot of things. And since you are pursuing from abroad, and for me, I have also done my masters in India, and I have done my double masters from US. So it was like a comparison of what LLM in India is and what LLM in the US is, and in general how the two education systems are different, how you evaluate. So you are in a position to kind of compare, contrast, and all those. So journey was really fruitful. And then once I came back from US, I'm currently working with Khaitan and Company in their intellectual property team at Mumbai office.
Thank you so much, sir. So, Sonal ma'am, as Sonal ma'am is the incoming LLM graduate, so we would like to ask what made you choose this particular jurisdiction or any incident you would like to describe?
I think I'm audible. I hope I'm audible. So I think I'm listening to Mr. Hitat's experience makes me a little more excited. The way he said it's life changing, so I'm really looking forward to that. Um, I'm not sure what incident. There have been a number of incidents. So recounting my story, I also started my application process about a year ago in somewhere around August. So shortlisting colleges, and just like Mr. Hitat, I also did not focus on a lot of colleges. So and the reason why I chose the University of Edinburgh was a few professors whose work I was really familiar with, and I really wanted to study from them. So, and of course the location, Edinburgh is a really beautiful city, so I also took that into consideration. And being a Potterhead, I think that sort of uh, took the took a priority. I won't say the first priority, but it was certainly one of the reasons. And I feel like when it comes to choosing your reasons, you're free to uh, decide what works for you. So basically it was Professor Emmanuel Okay, whose work I was really familiar with. And during my undergraduate, when I was researching on IP law, I came across a lot of his work, and then I discovered uh, the program director, that's Ms. Smita Kheria, she also has done some work in the space that I'm interested in. So that fortified my reasons as to why I want to apply to that college. Uh, Incidents, I feel like there have been many incidents. One of the reasons, even though a lot of people told me that I have a good profile and I would get accepted, I was still, waiting to hear back. I gave in my application in October, I think September end. And then in November, got to know that I received my offer. In December, I accepted my offer, paid the deposit, and then came the long waiting time where I had to the gap between when the visa application starts. So all in all, it's a very fun journey, and what I really enjoyed about this journey is when you're writing your personal essay. It's an exercise that I enjoyed immensely because it gives you a scope to explore yourself and explore your reasons. And while I was working on that, I really enjoyed that. And now I'm just looking forward to uh, September when I get to go there and start my studies, explore things. I'm in the middle of applying for part-time jobs because once you studying there, you also need some sort of things to keep you engaged and have some means for some pocket money. So that's a process that I'm really enjoying, and trying to tinker my CV from something that was completely focused towards law to trying to change whatever I've learned and make it look like whatever I've learned done in the legal segment would be helpful in other segments. So yeah, it's a very really enjoyable process, challenging for sure, and you learn a lot of things. And I feel like everything is very obscure when you're starting the process, from figuring out the documents to how things unfold. And I think visa application is another whole process. I mean, it's not as daunting as it is for the US, but definitely, I mean, it's another process in itself.
Thank you so much, all the speakers, for describing your journey. So, yes, we will now start our workshop, and Meghmala Mukherjee, ma'am, is our first speaker. So, ma'am, you can go ahead. The stage is all yours.
Thanks. So I think I'm supposed to mostly focus on life when you join a master's program, and of course my experience will be very UK based. And so the couple of things I would like to say at the beginning is that what I found very useful when I got my offer and I finally, accepted the offer once all the funding was in place, was to join and look around Facebook and Google trying to find groups which were for incoming students for that year, either for my program or for the university in general. And I have turned some of them into lifelong friends now, right? But the thing what happens there is that because you're joining and because everybody is coming from different jurisdictions, some of them would be people who have been in UK for another degree, maybe, or maybe are undergraduates from the same university who are now becoming, postgrad students. They can actually share a lot of insight, which is going to make your life a lot more easy, right? So, for example, for my college, which was Somerville College in Oxford, they also actually had a peer or a buddy system that they instituted when I was joining in, where basically they connected us with existing students, postgrad students, because we were also postgrad students, and they could actually give us a lot of insight into, what kind of facilities are available in campus, or what kind of facilities would be available at the residence that the university was providing us, right? So very basic questions I remember asking her, asking my buddy, things like, oh, do I have to carry, water kettle? Do I have to carry, what is it called, an iron for myself? Very basic things, but they add up because when you're packing also, that becomes a daunting journey because I think they're only allowed 46 kilos, right? So two 23-kilo bags, you have to pack your life for a year. That's very daunting. So I found those tips to be very useful. What I did ask, and I should have asked later, I realized, is also ask about what are the things available in the UK, right? So, and I think that's the same for US or for most developed countries, Europe also, Australia also, is that you don't have to carry basic provisions. Indian groceries or your personal hygiene provisions. I'm being very candid here, right? Every major city or town will now have an Indian or a South Asian grocer. Either it be an Indian gentleman or a Bangladeshi gentleman or a Pakistani gentleman or a Sri Lankan gentleman. They'll have everything you want. Masalas, rice, dal, everything. Right? Similarly, personal hygiene things you don't have to carry maybe for more than 10 days worth. You don't have to carry bottles of stuff. Trust me, it counts when you're trying to do 46 kilos of luggage. So that's one. Secondly, also joining these groups helped us know the lay of the land a bit. So when we just came into the college or when we joined, we knew what buses to take, what trains to take, whether we should go for cabs or is public transport reliable. Okay, you've reached a certain place. How do you go from the very public square into your college, your residence? So those kinds of things are very useful to know. And thirdly, they will also tell you emergency services numbers and stuff like that. Yes, they're available online, but what you don't know is the intricacies of these services and how you should navigate them. So, talking to your peers who are joining you at the same time at the same university is very useful, right? The other thing that's very useful is that you also find a lot of these part-time jobs and internship opportunities through these networks because they might also know of agencies or they might know of places that they are looking for people and they can then help you connect with them as well. So that's while you're going there. Once you have reached your university or your college, then of course it's also a, I would say, a struggle almost or a tussle between focusing on your academics and focusing on your social life because it is a new city, it's a new country. Not focusing on your social life is not the healthiest. You need to have a group of people, or at least one or two people, whom you can hang out with, whom you can chat with, or you can spend some time with, which is not where you're alone in your room. That becomes very important because it becomes very isolating otherwise. In the UK, especially, Christmas is very isolating. So those are the times that I would suggest you don't travel much as well because we have traveled in during Christmas, and it. So two things. UK sun sets by like 3:30, 4 p.m. It's very disconcerting. And secondly, shops shut very quickly, which means that even if you're traveling somewhere, you've gone for a quick vacation within the country, you're not going to find a lot of services. Your supermarkets close down, your bus services don't work. And it becomes very isolating because, again, your local population or your local friends have also left for their own hometowns or their own homes. So, having a core group of friends there is very useful. But you're going to also focus on your studies. Now, Siddharth can, of course, explain more of the difference between the Indian and the US system. But again, I've done an Indian undergrad and a US and the UK masters. And the UK masters, the main thing was that it's a lot of self-studying. So you go to your classes to discuss what you have studied and read. No, unless there's a few. So I had a mix of courses. So in a few of the courses, we would have uh, classes where the professors would teach us, say, a portion of the material. But then the next following week, we were expected to do our basic readings and maybe some of the supplementary readings. And they would give us questions in advance, which were to be discussed in class. And you had to be a participating member in the class, to be very honest, for your future career. It's not only for you to show that you have understood the material, which you will be tested upon later in the term or later in the year, but also because that is how you are going to trying to impress the professors who have come to take those seminars, right? Now, why do you want to do that? Couple of reasons. One, These professors, especially if they like your approach and you like their approach, and you want to be in academia, they can become your potential supervisors for a PhD or a DPhil, right? Even if they cannot be potential supervisors, they can at least be people who will issue you a letter of recommendation when you're applying for a DPhil or a PhD. Because in most universities, if you have done a master's, they do expect a letter of recommendation from your master's level professors. So having that good rapport is very important. Secondly, a lot of, at least for me, I did a lot of corporate law focused papers, which meant law firm partners used to drop in for seminars. And to discuss these answers with law firm partners and listening to their practical experiences also opened an avenue for you to have a discussion for a potential internship or a job offer, right? Now, currently, or at least 2 years back, the UK market was not being very receptive to master's level internships or job offers. But I hear that has changed a bit. It's opened up again, which means that you can get short term and a bit long term internships, which you can then convert into proper job offers as well, right? And one thing you will have to keep your mind open to is that not all magic circle firms are open for these things. You have to consider the silver circle firms and even maybe the boutique firms, right? As long as they're paying a good salary or a wage, which you think, or of course, that is basis of research as well, but they're giving you that opportunity to intern is a good place to start from, right? The other thing why you need to attend these seminars and classes is also because of a discipline habit. Because these classes and seminars, at least for my university, was not mandatory as such. You can skip all of them and you could just turn up for the exams and you'd be fine. But what you are missing out is on a rich discussion, which is not only focusing on the UK jurisdiction, but also on other jurisdictions from where all the students are coming from, right? Because although India is, I would say, a common law jurisdiction, there are a lot of differences in Indian law vis-a-vis UK law or vis-a-vis other common law countries like Australia, right? So just as an example, we realized when we were there is that UK doesn't have the concept of hypothecation. They only have mortgages of various kinds, right? We have learned about the various kinds of mortgages in Transfer of Property Act, but the way hypothecation has developed in India over the years, so not part of transfer of property, that does not exist in the UK concept at all, and which actually caused us, the Indian students, a bit of confusion as to how they were discussing these things. And they were telling us a completely different concept. And all of us were continuously raising our hands and be like, but this can be resolved through, say, a hypothecation. And I swear a lot of the people were confused because there's like, what's hypothecation? So to understand these nuances is what's going to help you out in your post master's career as well, right? Because while you may also start prepping for your SQE, which is your solicitor's exams, if you want to stay back and work in the UK, knowing these kinds of differences will, I think, help you in your examinations as well. And to touch upon a bit on the SQE in the barrister level thing, for SQE, every Indian who wants to be a solicitor in the UK at least has to give SQE 1. But if you have practiced in India for more than 2.5 years, then you can seek an exemption from SQE 2. Now, that is granted on a case to case basis, but it's usually granted. It's very rarely not granted to international students who have practiced for a bit. For the barristership route, if you want to practice in one of the courts in England, you have to go through the pupillage route. And for that, I would suggest that connecting with any of the good law chambers in London is your best bet, because all the important courts are in London. It doesn't matter that you haven't done your master's from London or the adjacent areas, but getting a pupillage in London would be of great relevance, The third thing is that if you're not sure, if you're not getting the type of internships you want, or if you just want to stay back and try for some more things, then till your visa is applicable or your visa runs clear, please apply for the 2-year postgrad visa. Now, that is something you can only apply while you are in the UK. So, if you have come back to India, even when your visa was valid and you don't intend to go back, then you cannot apply for this visa, right? It's a self-funded work visa basically, and you're basically getting a 2-year period to work on things without a sponsor. And this is the time where you will try to find a sponsor for yourself, either through a pupillage or an internship or an in-house job, right? So these are the various post-masters or things you need to start considering for while your master's is coming to an end. One other thing that confused me a lot, and I think I'm jumping a bit back further back, is when you get your visa and when you're filling the visa form, you will, at least when you get the visa, you'll actually get the visa for 3 months, right? What you will get once you reach the UK is a BRP or a British residency permit. And that is what is technically your visa for the next 9 months or 12 months that you're there. And you will have to also, the other thing is that keep your passport and visa, of course, very safely, because your passport and BRP and visa, if you have an Indian driver's permit, will also work for a year in the UK. So you don't have to need to have an international permit if you're only in UK for a year. But of course, if you want to be in UK for the long term, get an international driver's license done before you leave this country. It's easier to get it in India than in the UK. Good thing about driving in UK across the aisle is that it's the same system as India. You're not going to have a problem in changing directions or changing the car, the gear and stuff like that. So that's very easy. But basically, to sum it up, especially during the masters, it's very important for you to have a balance. Do not get sucked into either too much social life or too much studying. You have to have a balance, because especially if your degree has an examination at the end of it, because those examinations are not the typical Indian examination based. They are going to force you to write an essay in 2 hours, 3 hours max. And it will be three essays in my case. It used to be 3 hours for 3 essays. And that will check all your reading and comprehension knowledge and what you have understood from the readings and the discussions you've had. That is also where attending the seminars and attending the lectures are useful, because you get to also hear nuggets of comprehension from the professors as well. Because it's all not always going to be the fact that what you have understood is the absolute correct thing. Your professor might have a contradictory view, but you will not get to know of the contradictory view if you're not attending these classes, right? So keep a balance for both. Try to make a good set of friends, and just have fun at the end of the day. It's a 1-year thing. You're there to, it is a life-changing experience. You're going to gain a lot of knowledge. You're going to gain a lot of practical knowledge of how, I would say, a Western country works in a way. And it's going to give you and to be very honest, it's going to give you a lot of reality checks also about what is good in this country and not. India is good in a couple of various circumstances, and it's going to make you appreciate India a lot more. So I'll finish it here.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Your inputs and guidance were really, really valuable. And yes, Hitatsu, you can go next. Yeah, you can start.
Yes, so I will be, most of the topic that I'll be covering would be about the post LLM and what you should be doing it. But as I summarize my journey, so as I said before, I'll be talking more about the US experience. So when I landed there, it was a completely new land for me and there were hardly any Indians. Otherwise, in other parts of the US, you will see a lot of Indians. But where I went, the state of New Hampshire, that state was full of white people and there were like hardly any Indians, and there was only one Indian girl with me who was from India. So that period was a bit difficult. And again, from the first lecture itself, the education system is very different in the US. So what happens in India is we tend to study just before the exam. And while attending the lectures, we are not required to study. Like while what happens in the US, so in the US, before they start the semester, they tell you the reference books that you have to read for one particular subject. And let's say that reference book would be around 1,000 pages and you have 30 lectures for that particular subject. So what the professor would be doing is that professor would be dividing those 1,000 pages in 30 lectures. So you are basically supposed to read 30 to 35 pages per lecture before going to the lecture. So a lot of importance is given to the pre-reading part. And then what happens in the US is while you are doing your LLM, your grades are so 25 to 30% grades for all your subjects would be dependent upon your class participation. And this class participation comes from the cold calling. So they professors expect you that you have read this 30 to 35 pages before coming to the lecture. And I am going to teach from this 30 to 35 pages. They randomly cold call people and ask about the cases or whatever about those 30 to 35 pages. Now, if you are not able to respond that thing, that doesn't look good and that might affect your grades. So therefore, this pre-learning and pre-reading becomes very important when you are planning to do your LLM from the US. And it can become overwhelming. Let's say if you have 3 lectures in one day. So then your pre-reading becomes 30 pages into 3 subjects. So you have to technically read 90 to 100 pages before going to that lecture. So a lot of reading and lot of learning skill is required if you are planning to do your LLM from the US, and you should be ready for this. The benefit of this system is that at the time of exam, so most of the exams were take home exams or they were open book exams. Those exams did not have direct questions like we have in India. All the questions are application based. So now the benefit is that if you have done your pre-reading, at least you know that this answer is in this chapter. If you have not done your pre-reading, that means you don't know the answer, then you will struggle in writing the exam. So if you do your pre-reading properly, the exam becomes a cakewalk for you because you know what stuff is there in the book and you can easily rely on that stuff and write and frame your answer. So that is the one thing. Second thing, in my opinion, if someone wants to apply for a LLM, this is for all the LLM students. And I was also told the same thing by my senior, and then I experienced when I personally did LLM. A person should get some sort of work experience in India before going to abroad for doing LLM. Because what happens, a lot of students I have seen, they tend to go to abroad after the 10th semester immediately. So the problem is there that in India, in your all semester, only theoretical knowledge is given. You don't know how to apply a law. Well, you do internship at lot of places, but you are just there for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and you don't keep a track of that particular case for a long time. So here the problem is you don't know how to apply your law in your own country, and then if you're going there, it becomes even more challenging because a lot of I feel UK is also practical application based learning. So you should know how to apply law. So a lot of students struggle over there. The second disadvantage this sort of students face is while you finish your course, either that person would stay back in that respective country or come back to India. So now, even when you are applying in that particular region, if you don't have any experience to show on your CV, it becomes difficult for the employer to trust you that how your work product is going to be. But if you have some work experience of working in your home country, then you can at least say, see, I have worked in this field for this many years and I know how to apply law. I know how to do the law. So therefore, it also becomes easy there. And India also, what happens is in India, there is this mentality of recruiters that they kind of consider LLM as a break. So when you go abroad, it will be considered as a break in your career. Now, if you don't have your work experience in India, you have immediately gone to abroad, you did your LLM and then you came back to India. So technically your work experience is zero. So it becomes again difficult to find a job because people generally don't want to hire freshers. They want someone with some sort of experience. So in that event, if you have worked in India for at least a couple of years, then even though the break comes in your career and you go abroad and do LLM, but while you come back, you can always show on your CV that, yeah, I have 2 years of experience. So my PQ is of 2 years. So that is one important thing that at least, if not 2 years, at least 1 year work experience should be there before you apply and go abroad for the LLM. Now, the second thing, what is important is the primary question is a lot of people are confused. Even I was confused whether that person wants to stay back or whether that person wants to come back. You get various thoughts on daily basis. So in that thing, what I would suggest is the best thing is to do networking, because that's a very important thing in your LLM. You should be doing networking. By networking, I mean to say that, and of course, you are going to do networking in order to find a job. So networking is not like that on the very first day you'll meet someone and then you will directly ask for a job. It does not work that way. So just let those people know that you are there, you exist, you are. So let's say, so in US, a lot of networking events happen. So I attended a lot of networking events while I was doing my LLM. So I used to meet partners of law firm, associates of law firm, and sometimes a lot of recruiters also used to attend those events. So generally what I would go and I would just tell them that I'm from India, I'm doing my master's in intellectual property rights. I'll be graduating in May next year. And then I plan to stay back in the US. I look forward for the opportunity. So you kind of politely just present your case and then always try to get their business card or their email address or something. And then once you meet them, that particular person, and then if you think that this person can help me, immediately in a day or two, just write an email to them and just give that reference that we met in this particular networking event. It was pleasure talking to you. I look forward to meeting you in other networking events as well, and try to get to know that if that person is attending other networking events, try to meet that person one more time in other networking events, and then you can recall what you talked in the first meeting. So this is how you do networking. This is, and even when if someone wants to come back to India, in practice, if you have contacts with other attorneys of other countries, if you have any, and since IP is a global field, so you will need, you might, like some Indian client might come to you and say that I want to file a trademark application in the US. So in that case, if you have done some sort of networking with US attorneys, that kind of help you in developing business development as well. Because if you send them work, they might send you work back. So that is also very important. So for me, LLM, I did a lot of networking and I attended a lot of networking events. So I would kind of advise all the applicants, if they are planning to go abroad, always keep your eyes open. Always go for the networking events. In first couple of events, you might feel that you are lost, all of that, because not a lot of people will show interest in talking. But gradually you will build that confidence, and then people will start responding. Also, when you are doing your LLM, the important part is always ask for help. Don't think that this person is not going to help me, because you are in a foreign land. Ultimately, you are going to need help from others. In my experience, if you ask 10 people, at least 5 or 6 will definitely be willing to help. People want to help, people are willing to help. So always reach out for the help, always try to connect with them, share your experiences, learn from their experiences. That becomes very important. Second thing, as I have been asked to cover a lot of post LLM part in the talk. So I would say when you are, so LLM is of 1 year. So first semester you don't have to worry about too much up that what am I going to do after graduation, because in that case if you worry too much you are not enjoying the first 6 months. So at least during first 6 months you don't have to worry about this part. Later in the last 6 months, when you get some sort of clarity that okay, I want to go back to India, I want to stay back in the US or UK for that matter. So whatever networking, whatever whatever relations you have maintained in the first half of your LLM, that can help you in the second half. So now if someone is very clear that that person wants to come back to India, so the process would start in last 6 months. Then in that case, LinkedIn is a very helpful tool, wherein you will see a lot of recruiters, they kind of post about the vacancies in law firms, like Indian recruiters. So maybe you can get in touch with them on LinkedIn and and let them know that you are finishing your course in May, you are going to come back in June, and you are looking for opportunities from July. and tell them about the prior work experience you have, what kind of course you are doing, so that they will also keep their eyes open, and whenever some opportunity arises, they will immediately notify you. So that can be done on LinkedIn, because once you follow one recruiter, you will be able to follow many more. And there are, in the law field, there are many recruiters. Some of the recruiters only recruit tier one law firms, some of the recruiters only recruit tier two law firms, and even some of the recruiters only recruit boutique firms as well. So you should, in the beginning, I would suggest you should talk to everyone, and then maybe you can filterize whether you want to go in tier one, tier two, or boutique law firm. That would be your personal choice based on your experiences. Now, if you want to stay back in the US, again, since I was there in the US, I am talking from the US perspective. The problem that arises in the US is, after your, so LLM is not a STEM course. So the optional practical training, after 1 year of study, you get just 1 year to do your optional practical training. So here the problem is, the mindset over there is that this person is only going to be for a year, because the optional practical training is for 1 year, and then after that 1 year time, if you want to stay back even more and work even more, someone will have to sponsor. And that is all dependent on your H1B visa, and it would be dependent upon your lottery. So, and while the employer sponsors you or files the petition for H1B, lot of costs are incurred. And it's a lottery base, it's in no one's hand, not in your hands, not in employer's hand. So what happens is, a lot of people are not willing to kind of give optional practical training to foreign students, because they think that it's a waste of investment, because this person is only going to be for a year, then this person cannot stay back in the country. So rather than that, I would rather invest my source, my time and energy in the person who is a citizen of US. But there is a hack to this situation as well. Maybe you can identify some sort of firms. So since US has people from all around the world, so there are certain law firms, they might be doing some work in your respective country. So you should try to identify what law firms have work in India. Then if you approach those law firms, they might be willing to hire you, like give you first 1 year of OPT, and then if you perform well, they might even sponsor for you, because those law firms have work in India and work coming in from India. So there they will see you as a potential person who can like close the bridge, or who can help the law firm in getting more work from India. So, if you are planning to stay back in the US, you should try to identify the firms those are dealing with Indian clients. This information you can get on global. So there is this database of WIPO, wherein you will be able to see all the trademark details. And if you see the representative's name, you will get to know whether this law firm has filed application in India. The second resource is, you can visit that particular law firm's website, wherein they give the list of clients that they are working with. Therein you will be able to find the Indian clients, if that law firm is working for Indian clients. So this becomes very important. Second thing is, when you are applying for a job, so the format of CV is completely different from what is there in India. And one more thing is there, very important. In India, what happens, be it LLB or LLM, you have a placement cell, wherein they will let you know, okay, this place has a vacancy. You so every college will have a centralized portal. You will apply that there, and then college will send out those CVs to those particular companies. What happens in the US, there is this career service office. They just help you in making your CV good, making your cover letter good. They will give you tips how to face the interview. They will also tell you, okay, vacancies are there in this companies, but they will not apply on your behalf. They would want you to apply. So therefore, this becomes challenging, because there is no such support, and not a single law school in the US has this placement cell kind of a system like we have in India. So you have to be self-dependent. You have to keep your eyes open. You have to be like every time if you want to stay back, if you want to work in the US, you should be knowing, okay, this law firm is hiring. I should be aware of this thing. I should get my CV and I should get my cover letter made it in a proper manner in the US form for my career service office, and I should apply for it. Of course, career service office of your law school would help you in facing the interview. Career service officer will also guide you that what kind of questions you may face in your interview, but ultimately it's you that you have to apply and you will have to find the job. They are not going to help you. So this is, you have to be very clear about this thing. And if someone is giving any hopes, I would say don't believe in those hopes, because ultimately it's you that you have to do for yourself. The last thing that I want to cover in post LLM part, that even if you don't get a job in the US and you are very much determined that no, I want to stay back in the US, don't lose your hopes. Don't after once you finish your course, you have 3 months time to apply for optional practical training. And once you apply for that, I would say make the most of that time and wait till the last day. Don't lose the hope, because sometimes some or the other small thing might work for you. And don't be in a greedy thing that I want to work in big law, or I want to work for a very big law firm. Always start from a boutique law firm, and then gradually you can make your way in the industry, and then gradually you will be recognized, and you will, once you start from a boutique law firm, you will go to a medium level law firm, and then maybe you can work in a big law. So always channelize like that. Same applies in India also. If you come back to India, if you find difficulties in finding a job, don't lose your hope. Try to find some boutique law firm, try to work from that law firm, and try and then reach to the big law firm. Also, when you come back to India, a lot of recruiters will not show any interest in your profile if you don't have a work experience. Even when I had work experience, couple of recruiters did not show any interest. They said you have a break in your career, it might be difficult. So in that event, what I would suggest is you try to kind of explain them that it's not a break, it's in fact enhancement in your knowledge, enhancement in your education. And if that law firm has foreign work, you are going to be an asset for that law firm, because you know how the law works in that particular country. So in fact, you have learned about it. It's not a break in your career. So that you will have to kind of explain to the HR and also to the partner of a law firm if you get selected for an interview and if you are interviewing with them. So these are the key points that I feel important for the post LLM aspect.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us. So, sir, there is this one question in regards to the prior work experience. So, how important is the prior work experience when applying for LLM program abroad?
So see, as I told you, so prior work experience is important. See, first thing is, of course, prior work experience means you have worked as a lawyer, you know how to apply the law. Second thing, in my opinion, if you have a prior work experience, when the scholarship amount is offered to you, I feel if you have prior work experience, the amount will be more than if you don't have prior work experience. Also, as I told you, if you have a prior work experience, let's say you have it in India just for 1 year, and let's compare a student who does not have any work experience in India, and both of them apply in abroad for the job. So now whatever, so in your CV, since you are applying for a job, your work experience will be the first thing in your CV that would be reflected above education. If that column is blank, a lot of partners, lot of recruiters won't consider your CV. But if you have 1 year experience as well, you would be in a position to justify that even though I have not worked in your country, I know how to work in my country. I have worked for a year. So that kind of helps you in fetching more scholarship as well. And again, prior work experience will help you when you go abroad. As I told you, you will be able, if you have applied law in India, then they'll ask you to apply their law in their jurisdiction. So you will be in a position to that part becomes very difficult, because then you might not be in a position to do compare and contrast analysis.
I think I'll add to this one. For the UK as well, uh, for certain scholarships, you do need work experience. So for Shivning, they want 2 years of work experience minimum. And having work experience, I think, for as Hitat mentioned, is also very important for the education part, like during the masters. Because what I found was that it was easier to connect with the text because I knew the practicalities of how it used to work, right? So something in corporate law as basic as issuing of new shares, you're learning the theory behind it, but it's all just English unless you know how it actually works. So having a bit of practical experience does help that way because then you're able to connect with the text more closely and it helps you in analyzing and then talking about the text or writing about the text in essays or in exams.
Correct, correct. I would also like to mention one thing. So when I got my acceptance letter from Franklin Pierce School of Law, the scholarship was divided in three heads. One was based on my merits of my law school grades. The other one was based on my SOP and what I had written in my SOP. And third head of scholarship was based on my work experience. And that amount was the most in comparison to other two. So if I did not have work experience, I would not have got the scholarship that I actually got. So therefore, I always say I would, in my personal opinion, I would prefer at least 2 years. But if someone is not in a position to do 2 years, at least do 1 full year and then apply for abroad and then go abroad to do LLM.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Sonal ma'am, you can go now.
Right. I
Yeah, you can
prepared
start.
a PPT. Makes it easier for me to navigate through the session. So I'll just share that. Right. I think y'all can see it now. So my part for the session is pre-LLM, which is before you start your studies, what are the processes that you go through. So let's just begin. Why LLM? I think we've sort of covered. Why do you want to go for an LLM? It all gives you an opportunity to specialize in a subject that you're really interested in, that is your core practice subject. If somebody wants to, obviously it opens gates for you to apply for jobs abroad, and it gives you a wider exposure of an international practice and an international application. And of course it gives you opportunities to network not only in your home country but also with international attorneys over there. Why do you want to pursue a master's abroad, right? So I feel like there's no perfect answer. uh, there are reasons that are personal to everybody, and I feel like whatever reason resonates with you should be your perfect reason as to why do you want to go abroad. So of course, again, I feel like while I might not be the best person to give you a take on this, but what I feel like is that you get a wide range of unique specializations, and it gives you an opportunity to craft your own course. So like I am going for my LLM in intellectual property law, but I still have a lot of free hand in deciding what are the subjects that I want to take for my IPR specialization. So I recently, like last week itself, I gave my choices for subjects, and I was able to design a course in a way which includes not only the core subjects of IP, but some ancillary subjects which I feel like are important in the current scenario and are subjects that are of an interest to me. So, for example, I had the opportunity to select a subject on AI and robotics, and also some aspects of technology law. It opens it opens your path to settle abroad, and it gives you a global exposure. But again, whatever is the reason, just know that the whole process of application, the whole process of, as recounted by my fellow speakers, the whole process is full of challenges, interesting opportunities, interesting events, and you just need to be ready to embrace whatever comes ahead and go with the flow. Be open to whatever curveballs the journey is going to throw at you. So now coming to the most important aspect is the application process, right? So here I've created sort of a rough timeline which applies to most of the application processes. So before, so everybody says that your application process starts about a year before your main course is about to start. For me, that started even a few months before that. So what I did was all the technical and ancillary tasks that are related to your study abroad, I got them done beforehand. I thought it's best to get them out of the way before I even start my application process, which majorly consists of you writing your essays, admissions essays, scholarship essays, and whatnot. So technical aspects are basically getting a passport. Of course, my passport was expired when I turned 18, and I did not really do much about it until 2022, when I decided, okay, now I need to get serious about it. So I had to get a new passport. I got it in 2022. 2023, early 2023, I think March, April is when I sat for my IELTS exam. So those who are looking to go for an LLM abroad, IELTS is an important English language qualification test that you have to sit for. Of course, there are colleges that waive this requirement, but I thought, it's best to have that documentation ready in case you need it. And of course, for sometimes you also need it for your visa application. LORs. So reach out to all your potential referees beforehand. It's better to notify them that you are going to be applying abroad and you need their references, so that they are also aware that, by August or September, when the applications open, they need to be ready with your LOR, or at least like, bring it to their notice. And also exploring the LSAC portal. So all of those who are aiming for colleges in the US, familiarize yourself with the LSAC portal. So LSAC is Law Schools Admissions Council in the US, which basically deals with all the law LLM applications and law school applications there. And all the on the LSAC portal, all the law colleges are listed there. So it's a great way to browse through the colleges and their programs and shortlist what colleges do you want to apply to. And it gives you a very centralized portal, unlike the UK, where you have to register on the portal of each and every college. On the LSAC, you just have to send your transcript and LORs on the LSAC, and then the whole process is very streamlined. And of course, sending the transcripts or just getting the transcripts from your college. So in law school, what we usually get is sure, ma'am, it was really great to have you with us. We will share your email ID
I'm
with.
so sorry. I really need to drop off. There's something urgent that's come up.
Yes, yes, that's
But
okay. We would.
thanks, everyone.
It was great to have you.
Thanks
So,
so much. Bye.
So yeah, coming back to transcripts. So what you get from your undergrad colleges in India is your semester-wise mark sheets, and what the colleges abroad need is a transcript. So there's a way to get your transcripts. I think every college has this method. For Symbiosis, it was a very simple process. You had to send a request on a portal, and then they sent it to you. But when it comes to LSAC, they need your transcript, a physical copy of your transcript. So you have to start another process that way. So just even before, I would suggest that you get done with these things, because these are just technical stuff that you need to do, and it's always good to be done with these things so that you're not bothered by them later on in the process, and they just make you anxious. For me, I really wanted to be done with this so that I'm not hit with something that's suddenly required. I see a lot of students now who have received their offers and have accepted their offers and are right now sitting for their IELTS, or are struggling with transcripts. Of course, if you're in your final year, you would have a bit of a struggle with that. But if you're done with your course, your LLB course, then it's good to have these things at hand. Once this is done, roughly 1 year before, I feel like now is the right time when you should start looking at potential universities of and all the colleges that you want to apply to. So again, else for US, LSAC is really helpful. You can look at all the colleges, but don't just rely on the LSAC platform. I would suggest there's another portal, LLM Guide, which is really helpful for me when I was applying. So you can go through that website as well. So on LLM Guide, you can search, put in your specialization and list down all the good colleges that you could apply to. So transcript is basically, to answer your question, Soumya, transcript basically consists of your data. It consists of your marks that you have received throughout the whole. It's like your semester-wise mark sheet, but a more condensed and uh, a more detailed account of all of that. So get that. Some colleges do accept a semester-wise mark sheet thing, but transcript is a term generally used in application processes. So coming back to researching for universities, right? So I would recommend go through LLM guide. It's a really great website for shortlisting colleges, and then visit each and every college's website that you have shortlisted. Research it thoroughly. Try to find out what is it about that program that really interests you. Why do you want to go to? Why would you want to attend that particular university? So for me, when it came to the University of Edinburgh, it was the professors, it was the research environment that they provide for me, that were provided for me to do a very detailed research and study in IPR law. Now the third thing is organizing the deadline. So I used an Excel sheet and created a tracker of my own, where I put the colleges that I had shortlisted, and then what was the application deadline. LSAC again gives you all the deadlines. So once you shortlist a college on LSAC and then you open the college in the shortlist, it gives you what is the deadline. So for some colleges, there are two different deadlines. One is for international students and one is for domestic students. So be careful of that. Uh, in the UK, all the colleges have universities generally very clearly give all the detailed information there. So it's important to keep a track of deadlines so that you can also then uh, decide which college do you want to apply for first. So if some college has an earlier deadline, then you want to work on the essay for that college before other colleges. So I created a whole tracker where I had the name of the college, the deadline, and then a drop down menu where it was yes or no option, and whether I have sent my transcript to this college, whether I have an LOR. Sure, sir. It was great to have you as well. Uh, yeah, so organize all your deadlines and everything. And then, of course, work on your admissions essays and scholarship essays. For LORs as well, some professors ask you to write an LOR yourself and then they send it to the university. Also, for LOR on LSAC, you can't upload the LOR on your own. You have to send a request to your referee, and they will then upload the LOR from their end. So be careful of that. What is the norm followed in the university that you're applying to? And of course, in the US, CV is also an aspect that is seen. Considered by a lot of universities. Some UK universities do that too. Edinburgh did not really have that. I did not have to give a CV, but I did have to give an essay which talked about what is my relevant experience in the field of IP law. So this basically is a very rough timeline, or basically an account of things that you need to follow when it comes to applying abroad. So now moving on to the next slide, which is essays. So when writing an essay, what are the basic most important things that you need to be aware of? First thing is research. So I say that I give a very big emphasis on that because you really need to research the college, the university that you're targeting. You can't just send a very same plain essay to all the colleges. You have to personalize your essay with in line with the university that you're targeting, in line with the specialization that you're looking to get into. So explore the official website of the university, explore their faculties, explore their uh, subjects that they provide, what is their teaching methodology, what are the resources for the students. So what are the offerings in your field of interest? So some universities might have a special journal for that particular field of law. Some universities might also have, I saw a lot of universities that had a podcast of their own. They had blogs. So keep an eye out for that. For example, University of Edinburgh has a script portal, which is a journal and a blog platform for IP law. So that is something. These are the things that you need to be aware of, right? Look at the profiles of faculty members. What are their research interests? Read some of their papers to understand their, not only their research interests, but also what are their inclinations, what are their ideas when it comes to that particular research topic. University culture, student organizations, extracurricular opportunities. You can also follow the university's social media channels. So while I had potentially shortlisted quite a lot of universities, I ended up applying to only a few. There was one university which also had an IP cell which was active on Instagram. So I followed that as well. So you need to really dig deep into each and every university when you're working on your essay, so that you can also find parallels and things that you need to mention in your essay, things that you need to show to the admissions committee that yes, you know what the university is all about, what the program is all about, and why is it that you want to study in that university, in that particular program. You need to really convince them that you have done your homework. So that is an important aspect. Then now crafting your story. So again, connecting your research interest and connecting your LLM application to a very personal journey of yours, right? So start with your personal accounts, start with the reason why you are interested in that particular field of law. So for me, it was basically an interest in literature and creativity, which attracted me towards IP law. And then things sort of, the story sort of flows from there. So you would have a very uh, basic reason, or a very so that part would be similar in your essays, but of course that keeps changing from college to college, right? So when applying to Edinburgh, I mentioned the professor. When I was applying to UCB, I mentioned their work in UCB had a podcast channel, so I also mentioned that. I did listen to a few of their podcasts as well to understand what is the take, what is the stand of that particular professor when it comes to that particular issue of law, right? So that I can also say whether I agree, or whether I don't agree with their stand. So reflect your journey, academic, professional, some personal. Give You can also give some personal account, or some sort of an incident that happened in your professional career that also prompted you to take further action, right? You can mention internships, you can mention projects, you can mention papers where you explored a certain aspect of that law, which prompted you to think deeper and think further. So basically, you have to create a narrative which aligns with that particular, so which basically fits your LLM journey, very which basically aligns with your LLM journey, which makes it seem natural that yeah, after all of that has happened, all of that I have experienced, it seems like now I am ready and I really want to study IPR law or whatever is your specialization at this particular university. So that is basically the very basic, or like the first step. Of course, essays, uh, you would start with one essay, and then you might be working with some consultant or some of your seniors or peers. So you would start with one iteration of an essay, and then you would have multiple revisions. So but this is a great place to start with. Research the colleges and then craft your own narrative as to why do you want to study that subject, and then why do you want to study that subject at that university, and what do you hope to achieve after the course. Now, post admit, once you have received your offer, what are the things that you have to do? Uh, for most of the universities, you would have your offer by December, January, February. So sometimes you receive a conditional offer. Most of the students who are in their final year would receive a conditional offer that once you're done with your LLB, send us your final transcript, or you have to just pay the deposit. So keep an eye out for that and be done with your condition, fulfill the conditions. If you are thinking of taking a loan application, do that as well. Flight tickets. So book the flight tickets as early as possible, not that early, but of course. So for example, if you're starting your August and September, I'm starting in September, so I had booked my flight tickets by May or April. That is where the prices are not that high. They are reasonably good. It's not important that you already have your visa. You will get your visa. There's nothing to worry about. So it's good to book your flight tickets at a reasonable time. Then comes the visa application. Typically starts around April, May, or June again. Mostly 4 to 6 months before your course. Once you receive your I think it's I-20 or something in the US, and it's called CAS in the UK, and must be some other term in other jurisdictions, but yeah. Again, then there's shopping, as Meghmala ma'am also said, join communities, join groups. So it's also great to find Indian community. Once you get an offer and once you finalize university, you will find a lot of other equally enthusiastic students in India who are who are going to start their course right around the same time as you. So you can take the initiative. Sometimes the university also does that for you, so they would create groups of all the incoming students where you can connect with students in your same course in the same university to help you. Luckily, like for me, I have joined a group where there are all the Indian students who are going to the same university as me. So join communities so that you are already in touch with a lot of people who are going to go there. It makes the journey very easy. You also find a lot of travel buddies who are taking the same flight as you. So take this time to explore the city, explore the community, and also if you're also willing to start a part-time job, uh, once everything is done, you can actually start applying for part-time jobs a month or two after you receive your visa and you know what are the work restrictions that you have in your visa. So for example, in the UK, I have a restriction that I can only work for 20 hours per week as a part-time job. So once you have that, you can start applying for part-time job, and then of course start your shopping. uh, it's a really fun time to do all of that, and then of course there's nothing else to do but when the day comes, leave. So that is that, and that brings me towards the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, this is my email ID. You can also reach out to me on LinkedIn. My DMs are always open for anybody who's looking for help. I hope this was helpful for you all. I'm gonna stop presenting. Don't know how to do that. Wait. Acha, it's here. Right. So I think
Thank,
that is towards the end.
thank you so much, ma'am. So we have one question. So how to decide whether to pursue LLM? I know it's a very subjective question, but how to decide whether we should or we should not pursue LLM? If you
Okay,
can provide your
so
insights, yeah.
I think for me, I knew I wanted to pursue an LLM when I was in my law school itself. So it's a decision that you take on considering your own situation, your own pros and cons. So for me, I knew that I want to eventually start my LLM. I would have started right after my college, but at that time I was still not sure and I was still not clear with what the whole process is about. So I did take a year, 2 years actually, after working for a year, and then uh, here and there I decided to start my LLM applications. I think it again depends on you. Do you want to do a very deeper study into your area of subject? Do you want to explore a different country, a different jurisdiction, application of law in that jurisdiction? Uh, you would find your reasons if you really want to pursue an LLM, and whatever reason resonates with you is your good reason to do that.
Okay. So the participants, you can ask questions to ma'am right here itself. If you have any questions, you can unmute yourself. Yeah, Ritisha, you can.
Hi, Sonal. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Hi. So from what I learned from the session was, and to relate my particular journey for my LLM and IPR as well. the lack of prior work experience could be a big challenge in application. However, I'm not in a phase to wanting to work just after my LLB. I do want to do my LLM first and then finally enter the workforce, complete my education sort of in that way. I don't want to because if I talk about my personal experience, I feel like if I start working, I won't be able to get back to academia. In that case, what would you suggest that I present as my prior work experience for my application? Because I do have very relevant internships in IP, as well as I know how what an associate does and how to work my way about it. I just don't want to work as an associate just for the sake of one application that I will apply. So if I apply for 26, I will apply. I'll have to work the entire 2026, then apply it in 2027. I don't want to do that as of yet. So, what would you suggest how I go about it?
So again, I think uh, the essay portion gives you a very good opportunity to do that. Uh, you have internships, you have relevant experience, and as you said, you know what an associate does. So putting that into your, I'm so sorry, putting that into your putting that into your essay really helps, right? So put it very subtly in your essay that you have studied this, and then when you worked into this internship for this much time, uh, this is what you saw, this is how the law is being applied, and this is what makes you want to study deeper. So when it comes to applying for so this is what I've seen. I've been applying for, I've recently applied to law schools, and now I'm applying to part-time jobs. And what really matters is how do you put it out there, how do you show it on your CV, right? That this is what I've learned, and this is how this is what makes my profile relevant to this particular position or this particular uh, college. So playing around with your experience and making it look like you actually know what you've done, and you've not just done internships for the sake of it.
Got it. As just one more follow-up as well. University of Edinburgh as well as Queen's Mary University of London, they are kind of my target colleges, you could say. Is there any tips you would like to give just for University of Edinburgh, LLM IPR, or something that will, make the application process smoother as well as ensure that I get selected? Obviously, you mentioned about the professors thing, and I have looked up on the researchers as well. Anything else you would like to add?
I think professors, their researchers, and if they have any other initiatives that they have taken or they have going on currently. For example, I mentioned that they have the script portal, the script blog, and the journal, and also aligning. And also, when you're applying to Edinburgh, you have to submit two applications. One is your personal statement, which is not really which is not really that much of a professional account, but you also have another essay which is your relevant work experience. So that also gives you an opportunity when as you said, you don't want to work right now, but you have done internships, you must, if you have any publications, journal publications, blog publications, this essay is your is the perfect place where you can tell them that even though I don't have that much of a work experience, of post LLB work experience, you do have relevant work experience, and you do know how that particular law is being applied in the industry. So I did not apply to Queen Mary, but in Edinburgh, you have this option where you can actually show them that this is the experience that I have in reference to this particular subject of law.
Okay, thank you. Also, just one more thing. How much was the weightage given to marks during the admissions process?
I'm really not sure. I feel like for LLM applications, it's so when in LLM applications, they look at the whole profile in general, right? So even if you don't have a very high CGPA, so even for example, for me, I had a 10-point scale in 10-point scale in my LLB, and my CGPA was around 7.6, and I still got into all the universities that I applied to on the basis of my profile. on the basis of interest that I showcase to these colleges that I really want to study, and I really I've worked and done internships and publications in this field of law. And so that is how they gauge your ability and your interest, that okay, this person does not have that much that great of a CGPA, but they do showcase a potential and a genuine interest in that sub area of law.
Thank you so much. Got it. Thank you. It was great help.
Yeah. I think we have some questions in the chat as well. Did you have any? Yes, I do have a work experience of a year and a half. So I think that answers your question. Uh, okay, so when it comes to cost, one thing that in one aspect in which I was able to save was application costs. So, in surprisingly, when I was researching on the University of Edinburgh, I got to know that there is an application fee. But the day I actually clicked submit on my application, it was just submitted, and I did not have to pay any fee. Similarly, I applied to a few colleges like Glasgow does not have an application fee. For UCB, when I applied, so in US, you might incur some significant fee. I know a few of my friends who have applied to the USA, and they have spent close to around 80,000-90,000 when it comes to application process there, because the sum over there is in dollars, and then when it converts to INR, it's a huge amount. So you have to be aware of that, make sure that you're keeping that into account. So a lot of colleges also provide you application fee waiver. Do reach out to these universities. Some of them give you a waiver automatically. Some of them ask for some evidences to show as to why do you deserve an application fee waiver, but that comes into handy. Also, when you're registering on the LSAC portal to avail their services for application, you will also have to spend close to about 20,000 in INR to get their basic services that allow you to send an application to the colleges. How important is CGPA? So CGPA is obviously important, but it's not that important. As I said, I did not have a very extraordinary CGPA. I had a good enough CGPA to let them know that yes, I can study in your college. They do look at other aspects like your work experience, publications, internships. Your IELTS score is also a big not a big big. They don't consider it during your application, but it basically gives you a qualification as to if you have this particular score, only then you can apply. Below that, you cannot apply to certain colleges. So, uh, when it comes to LLM applications abroad, what I really liked is that they look at your overall profile, and then they're not just stuck on one thing in particular. Like if you don't have work experience, we're not going to take you. If you don't have this much of a CGPA, we're not going to take you. No, they look at you, look at your potential, and they see whether you are capable enough to take the challenges that come with it. Chances of getting sponsored job after LLM, I'm not sure because I've not really started the course there. But again, I believe that depends on uh, how well do you network, how well do you take the opportunities there. Uh, One advice that I've heard from an alumna of the University of Edinburgh, I had an amazing talk with her, and I feel like that's something that a lot of us Indian students need to know is don't restrict yourself in a box. When it comes to India, we are used to a very black and white way of things, right? Like if you don't have that much of a cutoff, you don't get into this college. If you don't have this, you don't get that opportunity. But when it comes to colleges abroad and opportunities abroad, what have noticed is that people over there and the students over there are open to exploring a lot of different things in a different varieties. So when it comes to the city of Edinburgh, I got to know that there are a lot of so you won't so a lot of students also go for bartending when it comes to part-time opportunities. So what she's told me is that don't put yourself in a box. Like even if you're bartending, right, you can take that experience and show it into your CV in a way that I have dealt with a lot of impossible people handling people when they're drunk, and being able to handle people successfully when they're drunk actually shows the ability that you can deal with impossible and annoying clients that you would have to deal with when you're working in law firm. uh, Also, I have worked in a high pressure situation, right? When somebody, when you're bartending and then there's some person who's drunk and creating a ruckus, being able to deal with that shows that you have that grit and ability to deal with impossible situations. So I feel, I'm not sure if you get what I'm trying to say. Basically, chances of getting sponsored job after LLM, it depends on how well do you network, how well do you portray yourself as a potential or as a deserving candidate. That is something that I've recently learned. I'm also applying, as I said, I'm also applying to a lot of part-time opportunities, right? So I've had the chance to apply to various kinds of roles. I have received uh, interview calls for various different kinds of roles which are not just related to law. So it all depends on how well are you able to mold your profile to show that you actually can work into that domain or into that industry. So I hope that answers. Again, my answer cannot put perfectly. My answer cannot perfectly answer your question. I would recommend that you reach out to other two speakers as well to get a very concrete idea. But yeah, in conclusion, I would like to say, don't put yourself in a box. Be open to different experiences, because if you're going abroad, of course, that's a different experience in itself. But be open to different kind of opportunities that come your way, and make the best out of it. Does CGPA affect the amount of scholarship you receive? No, not significantly. It is a factor that they take into consideration, but there are other things as well. Yes, you do need to pay the application fee whether you get selected or not. You are on mute.
So, yes, I think the questions are
Yes,
over now. I,
Yashika. Okay, yes, I'm going in September after a month and a few days.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Your inputs and guidance were really valuable. And thank you so much for putting in so much efforts to answer everybody's question. And also, thank you to other two speakers as well for sharing their insightful words. And yes, and for accepting our invitation to come here and speak on these topics. And yes, and also thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedule to be here, and also to other speakers as well. So yeah, we can end this session now. So participants, please fill out the feedback form that I have written in the chat box. And also I've shared the LinkedIn profile of Meghmala ma'am, and Sonal ma'am has also shared her email ID, and Hitat sir has also shared. So please reach out to them in case of any queries. Thank you
Thank
all the
you.
participants for participating.
Thank you, Devanshi. So I did not really have to take out time from my busy schedule because I'm free right now. So that's a message to everybody else as well. I'm relatively free right now. So if anybody has any questions, you can reach out to me over DM, and I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Okay. Thank you.